Let's go with Delaney. Delaney, I believe this is one of the largest fraud PPP stories when the history is written that will be out there. Over 100 Broward Sheriff employees received a PPP, applied for a PPP loan. Yesterday, 17 were indicted. Law enforcement, all badged, 2 sergeants, deputies, their detention center, and sheriff officers. Delaney, tell us more.
I am in full agreement. This is quite the story. Even hour by hour, there's been more information, so it's been very interesting to keep up with. Yes, so I believe Thursday they all showed up in court. In the main Broward Sheriff's office, their front doors were closed to the public as this was all occurring, and they were being indicted. But this is kind of a crazy story. As you mentioned, 100 people got PPP loans.
No, well, let me correct you.
Applied.
They applied.
My mistake.
But still,
Thank
we
you for catching
understand
that.
the problem. But go ahead. I'm stepping all over.
There are people from the office estimating possibly 50 to 70 people in total. I do want to commend the Broward Sheriff's Office because this all began with one individual they were investigating, and they found signs of PPP fraud, found some other leads, and they decided, hey, we're going to investigate every single person in this office, about 5,500 people, over 5,000. That's a lot. Didn't matter what title they had, they were all being investigated, and that's how they caught these 100. Additionally, I also want to commend them because they decided to start with just 17 individuals, because once you indict somebody, that is a life-changing decision, and you can never take that damage back. So they said, we want to be 100% sure before we start pulling people into this process. So I think they're doing a great job, and I think they're really setting a good example.
Delaney, do we know how much the total fraud is?
Thus far, I believe with the 17 individuals, they were saying about $500,000.
So these are small loans. These are small loans that they're going after.
I believe roughly, around 20,000 is going to be the average loan size.
What was the money used for? How many fancy cars do we have?
It is ongoing, and that information is not quite disclosed, but they have mentioned possible cars, clothes, even cosmetic surgeries, some of the typical things we've seen in the last 2 years.
The sheriff, Sheriff Tony, do you know his full name is? Tony, I believe is his last name. Is that correct?
You will have to forgive me. I was saying at the beginning, I have quite a few different tabs open.
Well, there's a great. All right, we'll go with Sheriff Tony. He made it pretty clear. What's going to happen to these 17 individuals?
Yes, I got 2 different quotes from the press conference they held yesterday. He said, I'm not going to sugarcoat or dance around this. At the end of the day, they will be gone. If they're being criminally charged, there's no place for them in this organization. And then he said, this one here is a no-brainer. How could we have anyone out here wearing a badge that is stealing from the American people?
Yeah. So we've gone through, the Sheriff's County, Delaney did a very good job of scrubbing their websites. We were only able to find 2 pictures on LinkedIn. This is a deputy, Anthony is one of them. And the other one is Deputy Lawhorn, and both of these are Department of Law Enforcement, which means they're part of the sheriffs. We have all 15 listed. We can go through that, but basically, what did each of these do? Okay, Michael, stop. You're giving me a headache.
To keep it simple, again, there's not a lot of information, but they applied for PPP and EIDL. They were using allegedly false information about, business income, number of employees, possibly fake forms and documents. And again, a lot of them were about what we've seen, 17,000, 20,000, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, it was a combination of PPP and EIDL. The The inspector, the U.S. attorney for Southeast Florida, which includes Broward County, Miami, which is where this is out of, said he did not believe there was a conspiracy, but obviously a lot of people talked. And there will be more indictments. They started with the badged people, and they're going to go to, I think you had the quote in your reporting this morning, then they're going to go toward the civilians.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, and I do want to say, when you investigate such a large group of people, 5,500, you're bound to find some things you don't like. So I can't say I'm necessarily super surprised. I feel like if you investigated any major group of people, you'd probably find a couple bad actors in there.
Internal suspensions began last week with uniforms, guns, and badges being taken away. So that is, they're, as you said, he made it very clear there's a due process, there's unions involved, but they'll go through the process and they will be gone. I mean, he didn't sugarcoat that at all. He was very, very clear on that. What's interesting to me on this is, and he alluded to another fact, that while the U.S. attorney said there was no conspiracy, he said there appeared to be discussions about talk to so-and-so and they'll do the paperwork, you'll get the money in a week. That's a pretty enticing offer. And we don't know who that person is yet, do we, Delaney?
We don't. It's pretty well under wraps so far. It's quiet.
Yeah. So they went after that. To his credit, the sheriff did say there was one PPP loan that on the surface they thought they were a criminal. And they did their due diligence, and they found out that the sheriff had a legitimate business, that they had legitimate employees, and that person is still working for the department. So they clearly understand that. The other thing I liked, and the sheriff, I enjoyed his analysis. Obviously, when these things happen, they go right to the top. He's doing a very good job in keeping his job, and he repeated the Marco Rubio line. The senator from Florida was saying, hey, there should have been guardrails. We understood that. We understood this was he used the term an honor system, but we had to get the money out. We were in the face of an economic devastation crisis, and we had to get the money out to keep people employed. So we understood that, and then he said, we're going to go after those bad actors. And while he said, Delaney, that we're going to go whether it's 1, 2, or 5 years, this is a significant different response by the Department of Justice than during the Great Recession, where cases dragged down for 10, and even there was one that was settled earlier this year. So anyway, I'm going to give you the final word on this, and we're going to bring Sarah in. You've covered a number of these stories. For those of you who don't know, Delaney is I hate to call her an intern. She's much more than that for us, but she's going to school full time. Delaney, tell us what you're studying, what you want to do with that study, and how does this case apply? It's a fascinating story, what you're doing for us.
Well, my relationship with school is ever evolving. I'm getting a master's degree.
You're allowed to do that.
Yeah. I'm getting a master's degree in criminology and criminal justice. I'm focusing on forensic linguistics, but I will also, starting in the spring, so here in January, I will be studying behavioral crime analysis. So this would especially apply with behavioral crime analysis.
Well, I need you to come back in 3 or 4 years and explain to us on behavior, on why people, and go ahead, bring up one of them, Michael. They've been in the department for 20 years, why they would risk everything for $20,000 and risk their career. I mean, what's your initial theory on that, Delaney?
Hopefully one day I could give you a stronger answer. I'm not really sure why somebody would toss 17 years for $20,000, but I think a lot of people had this perspective. Oh, it was easy to get this. We're not going to get caught. I mean, why not?
Greed.
Yeah.
Greed. No, it's too bad. And a lot of people are going to be hurt. And yeah, on one hand, I'm sympathetic, but on the other hand, this costs you and I and the taxpayers a lot of money. And for them to do that is putting a black mark on the program. And based on history, we're going to have other economic crises in the future. And the government, I thought, did an excellent job of responding to this one. And we cannot jeopardize having the government respond in the future, whatever type of crisis we have, because we will have some other type of crisis, maybe not during the sunset of my career, but certainly in yours, Delaney. Anyway, fascinating stuff. Thank you very much, Delaney.